Oh, the Denver Broncos just stole a defeat from the jaws of victory and chargered against the Los Angeles Chargers, but there is actually great news inside of this brutal loss. We're going to break it down. One of the most gut-wrenching losses of the season for sure. That is definitely on par with the blocked field goal against the Kansas City Chiefs. End of the day, we are still very much a playoff team. This took us from a 91% chance of making the playoffs coming into this game. We dropped down to an 86% chance. We could still clinch the playoffs this very weekend. Cincinnati Bengals have very tough games coming up, and the ceiling for this team is still extremely high. We've got a ton to break down. If you still believe in the Denver Broncos, even after this gut-wrenching loss, it helps me out a lot if you would like and subscribe. End of the day, Bo Nix, is him. My 8-year-old son is sitting with me and literally said those words in the first half. Bo Nix is him, Dad. He truly is. And you look at how he played today against the best defense in the league as they were touted coming into this, tied with us and tied with the Philadelphia Eagles. This is one of the best defenses in the league. And still, he had 2 touchdowns on them. Our first 3 drives of that game, there was no other way to say it other than Sean Payton was in his bag, and everybody was gushing about Sean Payton the first half. Even Sean Payton on his call sheet had the words "run it" written down to remind him to run it. And so we got the running game going. We had a gorgeous drive, that first drive of the game, and it set the tone for that entire game. Felt like this was our game. We had insane production from our rookie class, and that's where you find just a deep amount of great news. So you see in Bo Nix touchdown connection with Devaughn Vele, another rookie. You see Audric Estime get a touchdown, another rookie. You see we see Abrams-Draine pick off Justin Herbert, another rookie. We see Drew Sanders with a crucial sack. We haven't seen him in weeks, in months. We haven't seen him all season. A third-year player, young dude. Seeing Jonah Ellis get major snaps. This is a very, very young team who still is going to make the playoffs this year. And you're seeing all over Twitter in that first half, people being like, oh, now, yeah, the Broncos are going to be a tough out in the playoffs. Nobody's going to want to play them. This is a game we should have lost on paper. The away team on a Thursday night, a short week, we've played teams with their back against the wall with hey, if we don't win this, we're in trouble for the playoffs 2 weeks in a row. We were just playing 4 days ago against the Indianapolis Colts, an incredibly physical game where they had players only meeting being like, hey, this is our playoffs. We've got to win this. And now you come and play a reeling Chargers team. You know Harbaugh's not going to be down with the way losing 3 in a row. You knew that was going to be a very, very tough climb. And still, we should have won that game. Some really, really interesting and horrible refereeing and some bad play calling from Sean Payton in that second half. It seemed like he got away from the idea of just run it. When after Abrams-Draine had that interception, we could have just had a couple handoffs to end the half and be up huge, have all the momentum, and instead we try to throw it and have a couple incompletions. They are able to fair catch it. We run into the receiver of that, and that changed the momentum of that entire game. And then there's no way of looking at this and also not being extremely upset about some of this horrible play or the horrible refereeing in this game. So that you look here, I think first off was there was that holding call on Garrett Bowles against Khalil Mack, and if that was holding, then Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper were held on each and every single play. You look at this Chargers team who's flying around. They said multiple times oh, this team's really flying around. They had 1 penalty that entire game, and that was wild. And you look at the Broncos, just some very, very horrible ones. Obviously the lack of a pass interference call on that deep shot to Marvin Mims. You're just seeing it here in slow motion. The guy does not turn around and make a play on the ball. He's pulling down one of his arms and then just playing through the receiver. So that's an absolute atrocious no call there. That would have absolutely changed the game for us. And then even you look at that Jonathan Cooper horse collar tackle, when they're even showing that in slow motion, you see Herbert have his hand inside of Cooper's face mask, tearing his helmet off. The refereeing absolutely did not help us whatsoever in this game, and I don't want to excuse that away. Again, the great points of this game, we're seeing our rookies pop off all over the place And I think that's why you got to believe, like, hey, we're still making noise this year. We could still clinch the playoffs even this weekend. It's not over. The entire reason that Sean Payton flexed this game and agreed to having another game on a short week, it wasn't for this game. Like, Sean Payton didn't agree to the Thursday night football game because he was so excited about this game. He knew how important that Bengals game is next week, and that going all the way to Cincinnati is a much tougher situation than going just to SoFi, where you did have about 50-50 Broncos fans, and he wanted every single opportunity to do that he could. And the Bengals were supposed to be playing tonight and then having 10 days to rest and be ready for us. And now instead, the Bengals are going to have to play a brand new quarterback against the Cleveland Browns. And we saw the Cleveland Browns a couple weeks ago. That's still a formidable team. They're going to have to play them. They could be knocked out of it just by losing to the Bengals and to the Browns just this weekend. And now we have an extra 2 days of rest. We had no major injuries in this game, which is fantastic news. Seeing Pat Surtain looking fantastic, seeing John Franklin Meyer out there looking fantastic, seeing Drew Sanders being able to be worked into this mix, it just adds a wrinkle to this defense that already was dominant. It did not look dominant tonight, and we have got to figure that out. I really think it is a momentum thing, and the Chargers had the momentum. They had more of a reason to play in this. They could not, after being embarrassed last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they couldn't come in and let the Denver Broncos trounce them, and they came out and played hungrier in that second half. Sean Payton probably shouldn't have kicked that, shouldn't have punted the ball on 4th and 5 when we were about midfield. There's a lot of ifs and these little micro adjustments that have the Broncos coming out on top, but I'm not losing out hope because our young dudes flashed, and we're going to learn from this moving forward, and our playoff hopes are still wide open. Like 86% chance you take that every single day at the start of the season, and there's still a ton to believe in. Let me know in the comments, like, what are you feeling after that game? Like, are you feeling at all like encouraged by that outcome just because we played them so tough and they had their back to the wall, or are you just like totally out and you're not going to tune in again until next season? I hope that's not the case, because this Broncos team is still going to make some noise. Like, we got a rookie quarterback who didn't look like he was that far of a step behind Justin Herbert, and you're seeing guys who've hated on him all year in the pre-draft process, especially in Bill Barnwell, writes for The Ringer, and I feel like he dogged on Bo Nix more than any single person, and you just see him even say, well, the Broncos were the better team for the vast majority of that game, but you had sloppy penalties on defense, and I think sloppy penalties that are actually horrible calls. And then we left the door open for the Chargers, and good for them. We now, it's gut-wrenching to now lose 3 games to the Harbaugh brothers. Hate to see that, but I am still very, very bullish on these Denver Broncos. I'm still clearing out my schedule for Wild Card Weekend. We've got a ton of content to break down. We're going to watch all the post-game press conferences and all the content after this, but I just know how the Broncos respond after a loss, and we've seen that all season. The Broncos had a chance to just extend that win streak, and they didn't do it, but I am confident in Sean Payton. I'm confident that this is a different team, a team that's built different, and we still have a ton of reason to hope and a ton of reason to believe. We're going to break down really what happens based on this weekend, what our playoff matchup is looking like. The biggest downside of this is the most realistic situation is that we will end up with that 7th seed, and then we're going to go to Buffalo, which is going to be a tall task, but we beat the Buffalo Bills when we had a much worse team last year, and so why is that out of the question that we couldn't do it again? But that is a downside. Like, the way we looked in the first half, I'm like, we're going to Houston, and we're going to be in the second round of the playoffs, and that was probably getting too far ahead for our skis. But let me know in the comments how you're feeling. We're in this together, Broncos country, for all the highs and all the lows. I got a 5:30 a.m. wake-up alarm clock going, so I better get to bed, but we got a ton to believe in.